Hello there and welcome back. In the previous episode, we created this part of the code inside our location service. So now when we have our first location callback, it's going to create a new device and it's going to save it inside the database. And after the first time, it will skip this part and it will simply update this user with the information that we provided. For now, we simply update the time, and it's just so we can know that everything is working. But in this episode, we're going to change things so that we're going to get the location of the device. Okay, so we are going to finally get the location of the device. And in this episode, we're also going to display the location on the map. So it took a while, but we had to do all kinds of things in the previous episodes before we could reach this part. So first of all, we will go to our second fragment. And over here inside this onMapReady method, right? This method is called when the map is loaded and ready. We're going to reference the Firebase manager. Well, we actually first need to add it to this fragment. So latenit Firebase manager, and then we're going to initialize it over here, Firebase manager. So now we can reference it, Firebase manager, and we are going to read the data. So we're going to call this read data method. And the way we're going to update this map, like we created this marker over here, what we're going to do is we're going to send this map reference to the Firebase manager, to this method. And inside of this method, when we get the information from the database, right, inside of this callback, we're going to do the change. So of course, we can get this information from the callback and then send this information using another callback to our fragment, but I think this is a better way. So we're simply going to pass in this map to the Firebase manager, and we're going to do all kinds of changes on it directly from this method, okay? So right now it gives us an error because this is not a valid parameter. So we're going to go inside the Firebase manager and we're going to add an option to receive this as a parameter. Map, and it's going to be a Google map. Okay, so now everything is fine, and over here everything is fine. So we're simply passing this as an argument into this method. Now before we do the logic over here, let's take care of something that I wanted to do. We have this user, well, the device class inside of our Firebase manager, but there is no reason for it to be over here, okay? So we will simply cut it, and we're going to create a separate class for it inside the models package. Device, and we're going to paste it over here. So now it will have its own file, okay? Now inside the location service, we want to finally set to get the location, okay? So over here, we're going to get the location. So if the location is not null, it means that we have some kind of location. Right now, we get it as a location object. So this is a location object that is a part of Android Studio. So we get it as a location object. And we don't need to do this anymore, okay? We don't need to display it as a string. So we're going to take the location if it's not null, and we're going to set it to be the location of the device, okay? And of course, we also need to import the device because we changed its location. And then it says that there's a problem, right? Because we need to go inside our device and change the location to be of type location and not of type string location. So let's import it. And it's this one. And it cannot be null, okay. So now we set this location to be the location instead of a string, right? Because there is no reason to save it as a string like we did before. Now we're going to go into the first fragment, and we're going to delete the things that we no longer need. So we're going to delete both of these test methods, right? When we tested to read and add things to the database. So we're going to delete this. Then we can also delete all of this and delete this, okay? And now that all of these things are taken care of, we can go into our Firebase Manager and we can deal with this map that we received over here. Let's also import the device because we changed its location. So over here, let's make some room. We don't want to print anything, right? We want to set the data on our map, okay? So every time there is a change in the database inside this user's child, we're going to get a list of users, right? And we can rename it to devices, okay? And also this device. So we get a list of devices each time there is a change in the database, okay? And then we loop over all of these devices, and then we simply want to get the location of all of these devices and display it on the map, okay? So first of all, we're going to get the location, device location, and it's going to be device.location, okay? So we simply get the location property from the device object, right? If we go into the device object, we have this location property. And then we check if the device location is not null. Then we're going to create a lat long object. And inside we're going to pass the device location latitude and device location longitude, okay? So now we created this lat lang, and remember, we're doing this for each device. So if we have 5 different devices in the database, it will create this 5 times, and then we can create 5 different markers. So then we get this map, right? And we can add a marker like we did before. Marker options, position, and the position will be this lat long object, okay? And then title, we're going to give it some kind of title when we click on it. So it's going to be it user name, okay? Not it, we changed it to device. So it's going to be device username. So the name of the marker will simply be the username. And right now the username is just the model of the device, okay? And then after we got the marker, we're going to do map move camera update factory, and we're going to pass in this position, okay? Eventually, we're not going to keep this line over here because if we have 2 different devices, then it will go to this device, to the first device, right? The camera will move to the first device, and then the camera will move to the second device. So if we have 2 different devices that are really far one from another, the camera will always move from one device to the other, right? Every time there is some kind of change. So every 10 seconds, the camera will go crazy. So we are going to find a solution for that, but this is just for now when we have one device and we want to see that the camera actually moves over there. And we can also change the name of this method. Read data to map. Okay, so it will be clearer. Let's see, what's that? It's always true. Oh yes, because I forgot that inside device, I didn't set it to be null. Well, nullable, right? But it should be nullable, because when we first get this location inside our location service over here, we check, well, that's right, because if over here it's not null, only then it will create this location. So only if it's not null. So that's fine. So we don't have to make it nullable. It will never be null. So then inside of this, we don't need to do this check. Okay, we simply get the device location and we set it over here. I mean, there's an option that we will not get the device location because there will be a problem to get these devices from the database, right? Maybe some kind of error, maybe our internet connection will fall, but it's not because there is no location. It's just because there was some kind of problem with getting the data, okay? So we don't need to check if it's null, because if we get the devices, they will always have a location, right? Because when they're created, they already get a location, and this location is not null. And now over here, we can finally remove this testing time and we can update the location, right? So instead of the username, we want to update the location property, and the value that is going to go over here is the location. This location, right? And again, now it tells us that it's not a valid argument, so we need to go to this method, update data. And over here, we need to say that we want to receive a location. Okay, but there is one problem. This location is something that comes with Android Studio. And there is no problem to actually write it to Firebase. But there is a problem to read it from Firebase. Because Firebase doesn't like this object, okay? And if we're going to go to our maps fragment, and the minute it will try to read the data and it will try to get this location object, the app will crash, okay? And that's just the way this location object is built. Firebase doesn't like it. So the solution for this is simply to create our own location class, okay? And there's nothing too complicated about it. It's just a class that stores some information about the location. Okay, so inside our models package, we're going to create a new Kotlin file and we're going to call it device location. Now, inside this device location, we're going to make it a data class and we're going to open the constructor, and inside we're going to have a latitude, okay, which will be of type double, and it will be nullable. Then we're going to have a longitude, which will also be a double. And we're also going to save the time that this location was registered, okay? Maybe we're going to use it. For example, if we click on the marker, we want to know when it was last updated, right? We want to know if it's 10 seconds ago, or maybe if there was some kind of problem and the location was updated 10 minutes ago, right? So we want to save the time this location was updated. So we're going to have some kind of location time. And it's going to be a long because we're going to save it as a Unix time, okay? So now we created this device location. And we need to do a few changes because we no longer work with the default location object of Android Studio, but we're working with our own custom device location class. So first of all, we're going to go inside the device class and we're going to change it to work with the device location, okay? Then we're going to go into the location service and we need to do a few changes over here. So when we want to create this device for the first time, well, actually before that, because we want to do it each time we get the location, right? It doesn't matter if it's the first time or if it's just a regular update. We want to get the location each time there is a callback. So if the location is not null, we're going to create our own location, device location, and it's going to be a device location class, and this is the class that we created. So it's going to have, well, it expects a latitude, a longitude, and a location time, right? Because this is what we created over here. So we're going to provide it with these values. So for the latitude, we're going to take the location and we're going to get the latitude. Then we're going to get the location, longitude, and for the time, we're going to get the current time. And this current time is something that we're going to create here as well. Exactly like we did before with the testing. Current time, calendar, get instance, time, okay? We get this time over here and we simply set it to be the time of the location, right? When the location was updated or saved. And of course, we also get this device location, and now we're going to set it instead of this location and over here, because we no longer want to get this raw location, but we want to get and save our custom location class, okay? And it can be a val. Because here we can decide to have a few more properties inside and just save this entire object, okay, inside the database. So we get the location from the callback, and then we use this location to create our own object, our location object, and then we take our location object and we save it inside the device, okay? So it's saving an object inside of a different object, okay? We can see we have this device class, and inside we're saving a location of type device location. So now also here we need to change it the second time because it's no longer location, it's device location. And now inside our Firebase manager, we need to do a few more changes over here. And it simply says that it requires a double, but it found a nullable double. Okay, and that's because inside this device location, we save them as nullable doubles. Let's see if we have to save them as nullable doubles. We're saving them inside the location service. Well, we don't have to save them as nullables because if we get this location, it will surely have the latitude and longitude, right? So if this works and if we save a location, it will definitely have both of these things. It means that we don't have to save it as nullable. And then inside Firebase Manager, it will be fine. Okay. And as I told you, we don't need to use this camera because it will just go crazy. If we have like a few different devices, it will jump to each device when the device is updated, right? It will move the camera to one device, and then after a few seconds, it will move to another one, and then to another one. And if we have 10 devices, it will just go crazy. So for now, we are not going to move it, but we're going to keep it maybe for later, okay? The last thing we want to do before we test this out is when we click on our marker, we want to display the time, okay, the location time. So over here, when we created this marker, we simply show a title with the device model. But we also want to add, let's also make it like that. let's also add over here snippet. And snippet is just a small text underneath the title. So you're going to see it when we run the app, but it's just some kind of extra text that we can display underneath the title. So snippet. And inside, we're going to say something like last updated device location time, right? Because we want to display the location time. And what's the problem? Okay, so we can make it nullable. Oh, right, because we get this as a long, but we want to display it as some kind of formatted date, because over here we save it as this Unix time, right? Something like that. But the user, or we ourselves, because we are the only ones that are going to look at these maps, we don't understand this format. We want to see something like 3:20 p.m., right? Or something like that. 12th of October. So we want something more readable. So we're going to convert this location time into something more readable. We're still going to save it as a Unix time, but we're going to convert it over here. And the way we're going to convert it is by simply creating an extension that will convert it. So formatted date, it will be the name of the extension. And we're going to create it. Well, we don't want to create it inside our shared pref helper because it only has things that are related to the shared preferences. So inside our utils package, we're going to create a file called extensions. Okay, and over here we're going to create this extension, fun, and it will extend the long class, okay, because our location time will be saved as a long and we simply want to change it. So this will be the name of the extension and it will return a string of the formatted date. So we're simply going to return a simple date format, and the format will be day, month, year, hour, and minutes. This will be the format that we're going to display. And we need the locale, so it will know what is our position on Earth to get the time zone. Okay, and then we need to format this, okay? So this object, because we're going to run this extension on this long. So we're going to format this long, okay? So this here refers to the number, the location time, okay? And then it will simply return a formatted date that will look like that. So we return the string. So inside the location service, not here, Firebase Manager, we're going to import it. Okay, and okay, yes, because we're saving it as a nullable, let's just put this and everything should work. And what's the problem over here? Yes, this parentheses over here is supposed to be after we do everything, right? Because it's a part of this add marker. So now it should work. We should save the location inside the database and it will update the location on the map. So to do that, we need a way to actually go to the second fragment because we deleted the buttons, right? And let's first see what is the problem with this thing. Let's delete these imports. And also here, this is the old device we no longer need it. Okay. Okay, so now we will go to the layout of our first fragment, and we can delete this button and this flow, and we want to constrain this to and now it will be okay. So this is just a way to get to the second fragment. Of course, as I told you, later we're going to create some kind of login page over here that only when we insert a password, we are going to be able to go to the maps fragment. But for now, we just want to test the maps. And it's called button right. So let's just rename it to button. And then inside the first fragment class, over here inside the onCreate, before this binding view, we're going to use the binding. We're going to get the button, set on click listener. And when we click on this button, it will simply navigate to the second fragment. So to navigate between fragments, we're going to do find nav controller, navigate, RID, and we're going to find this action. Well, we first need to import this, import, and then we're going to find action first fragment to second fragment, okay? So it means that we want to move from the first fragment to the second fragment. And if you don't know where this comes from, is over here inside our resources, we have this navigation, and then we can click on nav graph. So it has all of the fragments that we have inside our project, and we can see that we have these arrows. So there's an arrow that comes from the first fragment to the second one. So this arrow is called action first fragment to second fragment. And this one is action second fragment to first fragment. So if we had more fragments, we could add more arrows, and then we had all of these different navigations, okay? So now when we click on this button, it should bring us to the second fragment, and the second fragment will show us the map, and the map will show us the device, okay? With the location of the device. So let's close this, and I think we can test the app. And why do we have this over here? We don't need it. Okay. It's because we used it before, right? So now let's run the app. Let's also open Firebase and let's see if everything is working. Okay, so the app is up, and before we start the service, there are a few things that we do need to change, and something that I remember just now. We cannot make our classes that we save inside Firebase be not nullable. So just make the device and device location, make all of these properties nullable, okay? So the username, the location, and inside device location, make all of the properties nullable, okay? It's just a problem with Firebase. And the only change that we need to do inside our classes is inside the Firebase manager. When we provide the location to the slat long, simply put these two exclamation marks, and it's simply a way to say that although it's nullable, it will never be actually nullable, okay? And also this question mark over here, it simply says that this device location is nullable, okay? These are the changes that we need to do because it's something that I remember just now. So let's run and grant these permissions. We're going to get the location and we're going to see it on the map. Okay, so we got our first callback and it created this new user. So now we can go over here and we can see that this user is created. We also have this location object inside, and we can wait to get the update. and we are going to see that only this location object will get updated. Okay, so let's wait a few more seconds. And we saw that we got a second callback, and now only this location was updated. So only the time was actually updated because I'm just sitting at my PC, so the location was not changed. Now, if we click on Go to Maps, it opens the map and it shows, well, it shows this marker because we did not remove the Sydney marker. I forgot. But these coordinates are actually in the US. So if we go to the US, this is the location of these coordinates, okay? So this is not my real location, but the computer doesn't use GPS, so it just gives me some kind of random location, okay? So it can also happen to you. But this is the location of these coordinates. So if we click on this marker, so this is the model, and underneath we're going to see the last updated time, okay? So this is really the date and the time that I'm recording this video. So everything is working, and in the next episode, we're going to do a few more things that will optimize our app. And of course, we need to also take care of dependency injection and MVVM. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.